evening and welcome to the Monday, April 15th meeting of the Edina School Board, our regular meeting. We do have a quorum this evening, and Rick, could you run us through the prior meetings and also tonight's agenda?
I certainly can. We did meet in the board work session. The board met on March 19th with the Edina High School Student Council. At that meeting, we received an update on the Student Council and some of their activities, but also had a good discussion about some of the work we're doing as it relates to the secondary program study, as well as how some of the services that we could provide going forward could be strengthened through that study. The students were very engaged with it. It was a good dialogue between the school board and the student council. And on March 26th, the board met in a work session. It was a work session where we did get an update from the administration on the secondary study. This is a study we're taking a look at all of our programming areas, grades 6 through 12. The board will be formally receiving an update from the administration at our May meetings. The board also received an update on what's occurring as it relates to our budget and staffing plan. A lot of the information that we shared at that meeting helped shape the administrative recommendations that are being brought forward to tonight's meeting. And finally, we board and the district administration talked a little bit about some of the leadership development that needs to continue to occur at the district level. And the board is planning a retreat for sometime in May to help advance their leadership skills. And those are the two additional meetings beyond the regular meeting that we held in March. As far as tonight's meeting, we have a lot of celebration going on. We've got a lot of recognitions of our students' accomplishments, and we'll be celebrating those to start out with. We have a presentation from Valley View on e-learning squared, our one-to-one initiative, our Bring Your Own Device initiative. We'll be receiving a report from the Community Education Services team led by Val Burke. We'll be talking about some of our plans as it relates to 2013-14, especially some of the staffing and budget plans. This continues to move forward. The board will be formally acting on our budget in June, but this is really the first step where we take looking at that. We'll also receive some updates on some of our other strategic priorities. We have some consent agenda items, a variety of items, including personnel, some termination non-renewal recommendations, expenditures. We have a class size adjustment that we're recommending for action, a variety of leases and student recognitions, and then once again the gifts. Under the action items, we'll be talking more about the budget enhancements, things that we want to do to grow our programming. We'll learn more about the All for All program, which was presented at the March meeting. This is our work on closing the gap and increasing access for all students. We're receiving some work on our roof replacements, and so we'll be approving some bids around that. There's an approval of a change in some boundaries in polling places as we work with the city on elections coming up. We have some policy reviews, and then also an update on the budget that was previously presented in a presentation, and that will take us through the board meeting tonight.
Thank you, Rick. We have two changes to tonight's agenda. The first is the 4-action item establishing the polling places that has been modified, and also the revised recommendations under discussion for 13-14 budget adjustments. Can I get a motion to make those changes?
So move. Second.
Moved and seconded to adjust the agenda to include those two new items. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Then the updated agenda has been approved. First item on tonight's agenda is the approval of minutes. We had a special meeting on March 11th, a regular meeting on March 11th, a special meeting on March 19th, and a special meeting on March 26th. Can I get a motion to approve those minutes?
Moved. So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve those minutes. Any additions or corrections to those minutes as written? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes as written, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're going to move the hearings for members of the audience after the Valley View presentation, just because of the awards going on tonight. First up in our awards, we have ACT Perfect Composite Score. Laura?
Laura Bowman. What an accomplishment. Congratulations, Laura. So, Laura, let's talk a little bit about this. What were your preparations to get ready for this test, and were you surprised? Just talk a little bit about the experience.
First, yeah, I was surprised, but I did a ACT prep book over winter break, and then I did part of a practice test.
Great. And that's an accomplishment, so we always like to ask this question. So what advice would you have for those students who are now getting ready for that all-important test? And I know it's a lot about learning along the way, but what advice do you have for maybe those freshmen, sophomore, juniors coming around the corner as they gear up for that ACT test or SAT test?
I would say to do a practice book so you know what to expect and get plenty of sleep the night before.
Okay. And how about it for you as far as academic highlights thus far with Edina High School?
I really enjoyed the variety of classes that are offered.
Great. Well, on behalf of the community, Laura, that's a great accomplishment. Chair Meyer has a certificate. We need to get a picture here. Congratulations, Laura. Next, we're going to recognize the team, the Edina boys hockey team. We're Section 2A champions as well as state champions, and we've got the whole team out in the lobby, probably planning for next year already, but we're going to ask them to come in with their coaches and recognize them for a great accomplishment. There you go, guys. Congratulations, guys. Thanks for coming in tonight. Congratulations, gentlemen. We just try to line you up maybe too deep. We got a little taller guys in the back there so we can get it. There it is, yeah, tall guy. Congratulations. Thanks for coming, guys. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Get over. Come on, coaches. Congratulations, Kurt.
Coach Giles, you want to come front and center, please?
I think that's
Yeah. Well, it started out at the beginning of the year. There were high expectations for the Edina boys hockey team. What were thoughts as you guys geared up for the season? Maybe you can talk a little bit about the season and that exclamation point at the end.
Well, there's always high expectations. That's the deal with being in Edina and having a hockey team. So it's the expectations are high, and we had high expectations, and just based a lot on what we did last year. We had a good group of kids last year. Most of them returned for the season, and the expectations were high, but we knew the kids were capable of handling what they did.
Was there a turning point in the season where there were ups and downs? Season's a long period of time where you felt like things were really starting to gel and you could really start focusing on that big trophy?
It was interesting because we've been asked that question many times, and it's went through a process where we came out I think 9-0 or something like that, and everybody thought we weren't going to get beat, and then we went for a little tailspin and those types of things. But there was never any period of time where we really thought that we were in trouble by any means and those types of things. Turning point might have been White Bear Lake game. We had a little attitude adjustment, and things went the right way, and they responded, and I think did very, very well.
Fantastic. Guys, we're going to ask you, I'm going to pass the mic if you can kind of give a grade, and if you're a graduating senior, your plans for next year, and can you handle all that? Okay, here we go.
All right, I'm Parker Reno. I'm a senior, and I'm going to RPI next year.
I'm Willie Benjamin. I'm a senior, and I'm not sure yet.
I'm Andrew Ockel, and I'm a junior.
Ben Foley, and I'm a sophomore. Danny Henneburn, I'm a senior, and I'm going to go to college.
I'm Joey Schwapik, I'm a junior. Matt Masterman, I'm a sophomore.
Patrick Haug, I'm a sophomore.
Ben Hull, I'm a senior. Probably going to play hockey at Gustavus next year.
Anthony Walsh, senior. I don't know.
Tivis Picola, senior, and I'll probably just go to college.
Bo Brower, senior, undecided.
Ryan Hatch, senior, and I don't know yet.
Tyler Nanny, junior.
Matt Nelson, I'm going to Princeton.
Dylan Malmquist, sophomore.
Andy Jordahl, senior, I don't know yet.
Colin Munson, junior.
Get those coaches behind you.
Dave Terwilliger.
Dick Blueston.
Oh, Dave and Dick, do you want to come forward too? This has been a strong coaching team, and you guys have two questions. One is about the new hockey facilities. That it was a partnership between the city and the school district and a private donor. What impact do you think that had on some of the training and some of the success around that?
I think it had a major impact. We got into that facility about the first, right before Christmas, I guess it was. And it was almost like these kids had a little place to hibernate and sit in there, and they'd come in there and we'd practice from like 3:30 to 5 every day, and they'd be still around there at 6:30, 7 o'clock at night, and they kind of made it their second home. And I think they bonded together, and I think that facility had a lot to do with getting closeness on the team, and we went from there.
So we've got to ask a Kurt Giles question because I got my back to him. So he looks so calm on the sidelines, on the bench.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Most of it, yeah, most of it is. He's pretty cool and calm. You know, when the time is right, you know, we all kind of get a little bit anxious, but no, I think what you see is what you get. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, gentlemen, it's an amazing accomplishment. It's a lot of hard work. It's hours. It's lots of dreams, and it was accomplished. And on behalf of the community, we congratulate you on this state championship. We wish you very much luck in the future, but again, congratulations on behalf of the community.
Way to go, guys. Well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
Good see you, and Jim.
T-shirt and shorts.
Good to see you. Come on up.
T-shirt and shorts.
Kutsia is going to be recognized later this spring as the Rosaries Peace Award. And it's a great accomplishment. This is something that's done in the metro area. And we commend you for being selected, but it also takes a lot of effort because it's a project to put together this work. Why don't you talk a little bit about what was all involved and what you're interested in participating in this event?
To begin with, this is about peace, world peace. And peace is needed not only within our families, but in our community and in our schools. And so with world peace, I did write an essay about how we can achieve that. And that is achieved through, personally, seeking knowledge, because we are ignorant of that which we do not know. And so one thing that I believe Edina school districts have done an amazing job with is educating our students about what the media has said, about what isn't true, about the truth. And so I really, really am honored to be a part of Edina school district, and to also to thank the teachers for what they have done for educating the students on world peace and trying to open up our minds.
That's very powerful, very powerful. Talk a little bit about your plans for the future. Obviously, there's a strong world peace drive that you have, but what are your future plans?
Currently, I am a PSEO student, and I do write poetry, and I do, we have annual multicultural shows, and so every year I've been writing poetry, trying to get the students to open their minds and trying to talk to every single person that I know so I can try to educate them in what I have. Future goals, I am a PSEO student. With one more semester, I will hopefully be completing my AA degree. And as a senior already, that's almost 2 years of college done. And so after that, transferring over to the University of Minnesota.
See you. Congratulations. I've got Chair Meyer who wants to recognize you, and we need to take a quick photo op here. Let's see you, Andy. MC McGurry, come on up. MC is going to be receiving an award later this year as well, later this spring, the Athena Award. This is given to the outstanding, for outstanding accomplishments as a female athlete. It's a long list, including four-year letter winner in basketball, over 1,000-point scorer, two-time Star Tribune Athlete of the Week, Most Valuable Player, AP Scholar with distinction, Sober Squad delegate, a French club co-president. You found a lot of time to do all that, but it's about leadership. And MC, you've been a strong leader. Let's talk a little bit about how athletics has helped bolster your leadership work.
Well, it's just a good opportunity to try new things and meet new people, and it kind of helped me come out of my comfort zone, and that helped me to be a better leader.
Fantastic. And it had to be a lot about managing your time as well. So what are suggestions you have for those students who are out there who've got full plates and yet you're able to get this all done and you still look like, you know, there's no gray hair in your head yet, so things must be working in the right direction. How do you manage a schedule like that?
I just do what I love to do, and I just find a way to make it work.
Fantastic. And your plans for next year?
I'm going to go to Creighton University.
And basketball is in the plans?
Yeah, I'll be playing basketball there as well.
Congratulations on the award. Congratulations on a great career here at Edina High School, and wish you very much the best with it as a Blue Jay. We've got a quick recognition here. Coleman Foley and Madeline Rodriguez, if they could come forward, please. Congratulations. We've got our 2 AAA award winners. These are outstanding young scholars who do well in athletics, the arts, and academics. Coleman, high GPA, 4 AP courses, choral member, football team captain, alpine skiing, baseball team.
The good stuff.
Yeah.
The good stuff.
So looking back, you know, we think we're going to get that diploma signed. It looks like it's going to be pretty promising. When you look back on the career, what are some of the things that you're going to take away from your high school experience, because it's been a broad experience for you?
I think the thing I'll take in most is just being able to have been able to pursue all of my interests and stuff like that when you're presented with opportunities, and if they excite you, go out and take them, because at the end of the day, that's the fun stuff.
Fantastic. And what are your plans for the upcoming year?
I'll either be attending St. Olaf or Madison. Haven't decided yet, though.
So now that you've had all these experiences, you know, you've got going to another institution. How are you going to engage yourself so you can have that same full experience that you seem to be treasuring here? What are plans you have around that?
I think it's going to be time management, a lot of it, but I think also it's kind of related to what MC was talking about how if you do what you love, you kind of find time to do it. So I think I'll keep doing the things I love, and at the end of the day, things are getting done and things are good.
That's good. Now, let's talk a little bit about your experiences. We've got, again, GPA way out there, AP courses, choral member, lacrosse, basketball, full schedule. Did you ever lose any sleep on this?
Yeah, I lose a lot of sleep, actually. It's kind of definitely time management, like what Coleman was saying, but if you just kind of prioritize and do the things that need to be done, and maybe lose a couple hours of sleep over it, but got to get it all done.
And as you look back on your high school career, what are some of those special moments that you're treasuring or that you're going to continue to reflect on as you move on?
I think probably the friendships that I've made through all of the activities that I do, as well as the leadership positions that I think are going to definitely help me to succeed in college and to get involved again in the years to come.
And your plans for the future?
I'm going to Princeton University.
So what does that bring on? How are you going to continue to have this full life at Princeton? What are your thoughts around that? Do you have plans or ideas?
I'm not quite sure yet. Hopefully a little bit of sports and some other clubs and stuff like that.
Well, again, on behalf of the community, Coleman and Madeline, I think we have a photo op here, but we congratulate you on this great accomplishment, being AAA award winners.
Congratulations to all our award winners tonight. Next up, we have the Valley View Middle School presentation.
We welcome Sean Dudley, principal at Valley View, and her team of able assistants. Talk a little bit about some of the exciting learning occurring at Valley View Middle School. We should also be welcoming our Valley View 9th grade government students who are in the back participating in their meeting that they're required to take, and we welcome them as well. Miss Dudley, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Great.
Got to grab a microphone, and then we'll be all set.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Chair Meyer, Superintendent Dressen, School Board. We're very excited to be here this evening to present on e-learning squared and how we use Chromebooks in 6th grade at Valley View Middle School. With me to present this evening, Gabby Hill and Peter Stidman, both are in 6th grade.
We use Chromebooks in language arts, reading, advisory, and PT.
What we like about using Chromebooks.
We don't use paper pencil much, but we don't need them.
We log on once and then the device auto boots.
The Chromebook has a quick startup, like 8 seconds.
It is great for each of us to have a Chromebook of our own.
Our apps like Moodle and Google Drive are more accessible on the Chromebook.
Using apps on the Chromebook is helpful.
The Chromebook is lightweight and convenient. It's very easy to carry around.
The Chromebook boots up faster than even an iPhone.
A Chromebook works well on the cloud, unlimited storage.
Sometimes with a lot of tabs open, the device slows down and then freezes.
The internet can be slow when everyone is using a Chromebook.
The Chromebooks cannot download some software.
Keypads are a little touch sensitive.
For some, the device can be distracting, but not for us.
The caps lock button is replaced by the search button.
When all students are using a Chromebook, Google slows down.
What we like using about Google Drive.
We learned about Google Drive this year.
We learned mostly from our language arts teacher.
We don't use paper pencil much, and that's okay.
We can share our work, blogs, presentations, or whatever we want with kids, teachers, and others, like when we're doing peer editing.
We can work together on Google Drive things.
We created ePortfolio in advisory and positive transitions. The ePortfolio is a great place where we keep our papers and projects that are great examples of our learning.
We will share the ePortfolio at our learning celebration on April 30th.
You can never lose work. Google always saves your work for you.
Works well in the clouds because there's unlimited storage.
We can turn in our homework anytime. If we want to turn something in on Sunday, I can do that. I don't have to wait until Monday.
Learning is flexible.
We use Google Forms for quizzes. We also use Moodle for quizzes.
We are blogging for language arts.
These are the student blogs for language arts. So one of the things we did this year is we had a priority for finding some extra space at Valley View. So I made an offer that Mr. Moore couldn't refuse. In order for giving up his classroom space, he was awarded a Chromebook cart with 30 Chromebooks. And so the students really go from classroom to classroom when there's an open classroom space, and then use various areas like the atrium, the hallways, wherever there's open space, students learn in those spaces. So the kids are going to talk about being on a cart.
Doesn't matter whether we have a classroom, we have a Chromebook, so our work is in the cloud.
We have other places to learn besides the classroom. We go to hallways, we have the Chromebooks, so we can just work about just anywhere.
Classrooms are nice. You have your own space, but with the Chromebook cart, you don't have to carry around a notebook. You just have a device.
Language arts is virtually paperless, with a few exceptions.
This is how our generation lives and does our work. It seems like a big risk, but it does not have a classroom. But this is a fact that we will just use technology more than the past generations.
In 3 to 5 years, learning will be a flexible. In 3 to 5 years, learning in a flexible space is just what we will do.
So a couple additional thoughts that I have. We have made a priority then to use that flexible space. And with the repurposed space that Mr. Moore vacated, we were able to move EL classes to a different area, more in the what we like to call the donative instruction at Valley View, which is around the courtyard. We also have flexible learning spaces in the hallways. We have 8 large tables equipped with chairs where students go in the halls and learn before school, after school, and teachers utilize the space during class time for students to work in small groups and collaborate. We've also had a priority at Valley View with our magazine drive. Any proceeds we've had from a magazine drive, our site council decides how those funds are spent. And we've committed to a process using mini grants where we've awarded teachers different pieces of technology and devices based on impacting student learning and achieving more. And so these are the pieces that we've done from the magazine drive. You can see that we're pretty committed with a number of iPads and Chromebooks and laptops. And then with fiscal year ending budget in 12 and 13 for our capital budget, again, we've focused our efforts on providing technology so that we can have flexible learning and 21st century learning. And then the final thought that I would have is that aside from the generous allocations we've received from the district in a decentralized budget through I-squared initiatives and through any other district sort of allocations, we've been able to really put a lot of devices into Valley View sort of on our own with a commitment that we have to students and their learning. So we're here to answer questions that you might have.
How have you worked with your staff, your teachers, to help them integrate their coursework for the students with electronic devices?
Students bringing their own devices and students using devices, it's about student learning. So students deciding what they need to best learn is really where it starts. It's really from the ground up. If we really focus our efforts on what students need, then how teachers teach and what teachers do is dependent on what students need. And then the focus shifts from teaching to learning.
How many of the 6th graders are on the CART classes, LA CART classes?
Yeah, just one, and that's Mr. Moore's class.
One team or one class?
One class. One.
So that means 30 students, or that means more?
Mr. Moore has 6 sections of language arts with about 30 in each. So we have about a whole, well, he actually teaches a team and a half, so about 180 students.
So about half of the students are?
More than half of the 6th graders are doing this.
Okay, and are we going to try to do some type of kind of like compare tests or do any of this type of proof of concept type of accountability?
We can definitely look at test scores. We can look at formative assessments and summative assessments. But I think anecdotally, kids will tell us that they really enjoy it. And Mr. Moore said that he would never go back to teaching in a classroom. He definitely wants to continue. He would not go back to a classroom space. Having the flexibility to move around and be different places at different times really suits him, and I think it suits the kids.
I'm curious how the students would sort of characterize this on a cart learning. Think for a minute, what's a really good thing that you get to do and what's a thing that sort of isn't so good?
I would definitely say that a thing that's great is that, as I said in the presentation, we always have our work. Google always automatically saves it. You can access it on virtually any device, so that's a good thing. Then a bad thing is that sometimes the Chromebooks can crash easily when there are 30 kids all using the same Wi-Fi network.
I would say the exact same thing, and we can just, it's very flexible, so if a teacher that needs our classroom, we can just go out into the atrium or the hallway, and we can just continue our work like it's a normal day.
And how do you know where you need to be
Our
or where you're going?
Our teacher usually tells us.
So can you just walk us through like a typical classroom? I mean, if there's a first period class for him, how does it start? What's it progress through?
So he's scheduled into classrooms. So we have open blocks. So in the first 2 blocks, 1, 2, A and B day, he's scheduled into 9th grade classrooms that he may use or not use. And so I'm guessing the kids meet at a classroom, and or there'll be a sign on the door, meet in the atrium, meet in this hallway, but usually you probably meet in your classroom. And then I believe that he has a 3-4-8A, I believe. I want to be quoted on this. I think he has a 3-4-8A team time and prep time. And so then he teaches 3-4B in another space, which would be in 8th grade teachers because their spaces are open. And then 5-6 he teaches in 7th grade teachers' classrooms because those spaces are open. But again, he has a space designated for him, but he doesn't need to use it. So it's whatever classroom is open is the classroom that in the scheduling matrix he's scheduled into. And then I think he teaches a 7-8A. And so kids can really, they go where he goes. And he has we bought him a nice cart and he wheels it around, he has everything there. The kids told me, I don't know if they'll tell you this, but one of the fun things they were able to do is that one day they met in the high school tunnel hallway, so they were able to sort of be in that special little hallway, and it was kind of fun. And the thoughts that were on the presentation were all students' thoughts. They came to my office, they talked, I wrote, so all of the anecdotal things were all their words. They were not mine. They're remarkable students.
I have a question for any one of the three of you, and you may have different perspectives on this. If more teachers were to have the opportunity for a CART classroom, and they chose that as something that would be a great fit for learning, what would be helpful to change in our buildings to make more kinds of flexible floating classrooms work better?
I think that if you had probably a little bit more tables in like the hallways, that it would be easier to just go around the building and have kind of that flexible learning aspect in the school. So.
I think if a lot more teachers had carts, since there's only like one elevator, that could have been a problem. But also, I like how the atrium has like all those tables and benches. So if they had those like spread out and like I remember in my elementary school we had like this classroom outside that was set up with like some benches. So if like in some specific hallways they had like a couple benches and like 1 or 2 tables, I think that would definitely help.
Would it have helped if you had your own device that you were taking with you and bringing to the classroom?
Yeah. I already have my device that I bring and go, so that's mostly for me.
So you use your own rather than the Chromebook that goes on the cart.
Yeah, but sometimes like my device can't like process like some presentations and documents as well as like computers can.
Can you please tell me the question again?
If you would have your own device that you were bringing with you to the classroom and to other classroom, would you see it would have been a positive?
I think it could go either way. It's just, it's kind of hard to keep track of that just because you wouldn't want to lose it, or I just think it's better if the teachers have them just for security-wise, and you can even work on your stuff at home, so I guess it really doesn't matter to me, but it may matter to others.
Thank you all. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Next up, we have several requests to speak this evening. First up is Ellen Kohler. Reminder to the public that individuals are welcome to come speak to the board. It's important they limit their presentations to 3 minutes. Also want to make sure that any presentation to the board are in accordance to policy 206, and any public complaints need to be in writing. And reminder, there is no board discussion on the issues presented, and a question raised during presentations will receive responses subsequent to the meeting as directed by the board. Welcome, Alan.
Thank you. My name is Alan Kohler, and I speak to you on behalf of over 400 families living in the northwest quadrant of the city of Edina who are actively seeking to attach to the Edina School District. 1 year ago this week, representatives from Edina Public Schools and Hopkins Public Schools met to engage in what was described as a framing discussion to address how the two districts could collaborate on the issue of detachment from the Hopkins School District and attachment to the Edina School District. Approximately 2 weeks after that meeting, Dr. John Schultz, superintendent of Hopkins Public Schools, provided the following testimony to the Senate Education Committee, and I quote, "Working in partnership, the Hopkins and Edina School Districts will develop recommendations for the best solutions to the annexation issue. The decision-making steps will include public hearings in both communities and involve legal and financial counsel, county officials, Unite Edina 273 representatives, local school boards, elected officials, and the Minnesota Department of Education. We will issue regular communications on this process and hope to complete this effort by October 2012. Despite the favorable start and these encouraging words, we are unaware of any follow-up meetings or any activities on this issue directly involving the two districts over the past year. As you likely know, during the latter half of 2012, we endured a process of Hopkins' own devising, which in the end resulted in only one meeting of the full Hopkins School Board to consider 449 petitions signed by 670 citizens, at which we were not even allowed to make a presentation, and their board moved to a vote without any other board members raising a single question or making any comment whatsoever. I address you at this point in time because you're in the process of educating the Edina community and garnering support for the next generation of Edina Public Schools strategic plan. According to information put out by the district last week, to maintain a balanced budget and plan for additional financial challenges in the coming years, the school board has identified a target to adjust its budget by approximately $1 million for the 2013-2014 school year. And further, and I quote, "We are looking at adjustments that will include a combination of new revenue, reductions and reallocations, as well as new investments in an effort to better align dollars with the goals of the strategic plan." Now is a good time to remind you that much of the financial challenge could be alleviated by the property tax dollars of our homes finally being allowed to flow to the school district, providing educational services to our children, rather than following a historical boundary which no longer serves its original purpose. I know that some of you have expressed great reluctance in getting involved in this matter for fear of offending external constituencies. I strongly urge you to rethink this position and become more than passive or neutral observers, and instead actively work with us to create a solution. As you consider this request, I suggest you keep 4 things in mind. Number 1, Edina Public Schools has a stated strategic objective to enhance partnerships with the community, and we are clearly part of the Edina community. Number 2, since 2000, the City of Edina and Edina Public Schools has entered into a number of financial agreements, which have seen multiple facilities owned by Edina Public Schools constructed, renovated, or improved, with these costs financed by all taxpayers within the City of Edina, and not simply those residing within district boundaries. Number 3, the last time Hopkins Public Schools made a capital expenditure on the construction or expansion of facility to serve as a neighborhood school for our quadrant of the city was in 1953. And number 4, the last time Hopkins Public Schools operated a neighborhood school proximate to our quadrant of the city was in 1981. To conclude, I sincerely hope that you will make the logical resolution of this situation one of your priorities as you map out a strategy for the next generation of Edina Public Schools. We hope that you can include us in the agenda of an upcoming board workshop so that we can engage with you in productive discussions about how we can move this matter forward from here. We want to be part of the financial solution, but we need your active involvement. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Alan.
Next up is Marilyn.
My name is Marilyn Cuppy. I'm a technology support specialist at Edina Public Schools. Later this evening, you will be approving the personnel recommendations. Among those recommendations is the termination of 10 employees in the District Media and Technology Services Department, including me. I know this is out of order because you did recognitions earlier, but if any of you want to stand, I suggest you do so now. We are good people who work hard and frequently go above and beyond this to serve this district. Many of us count our years here in decades. We care about our work, the staff, the students, and the district. I don't think any of us ever imagined that it would end this way. It is with deep sadness that I am here at this meeting tonight to see this happen. It is a great loss for Edina Public Schools.
Thank you, Marilyn. Tim, there was a question if you wanted to speak or not? Okay, thank you. Next up, we have our Community Education Services Report. Welcome.
just
You
takes
had
one
your
of these young
technology
guys.
report, now it's time for the real people, right? Yeah, that's right. Nice to see you here tonight. Valerie Burke, Edina Public Schools Community Education Services. It is with great pleasure that I introduce the team of people with me. Jane Tierney is a school-age care manager with our 4th and 5th grade program, Wise Guys. Paul Miller is a school-age care supervisor with our Surge program, which serves students in grades 6 through 9. Tristan is a student at the Edina Public Schools, Carter, pardon me, and is also on our Edina Community Education Services Board and on the Youth Advisory Council. And Marsha Friedman is our Community Volunteer Program Supervisor. We in Edina Community Education Services create volunteer opportunities for all. We believe strongly that our goals align with the Edina Public Schools goals in personalizing our customer service experiences for all, and particularly for developing programs that align with K-12, including the All for All program initiative. Finally, we believe in partnerships with students, with staff, and with the community of Edina and beyond. You'll see from a little taste of the opportunities we'll talk about tonight that our volunteer opportunities and partnerships serve all ages and stages here in Edina. We're committed to look for ways to involve and expand volunteers to further the All for All initiative and the mission of the Edina Public Schools. And tonight you're going to hear 2 snippets of programs that do just that. So which one of you talks first?
Hello, thank you very much for this opportunity to highlight our program. I'm going to borrow that quickly from you, Tristan. I represent the Wise Guys program, but we have fashioned a CIT program, Counselors in Training, where we take students beginning when they're 13 and try to train them in to actually become, well, really whatever they want to become. It's part of our All for All. It's worked out great for us. We started with a few kids that were the oldest kids in the program and have graduated on to recruiting children from all over. I note the Valley View 9th graders in the back from the government class. The Southview government class has a requirement of service. And so we've been able to draw heavily from that class as well. So we've expanded beyond this pool of kids that may have participated in our program to being in Southview at their service fair every fall, drawing kids, and then working with the class to incorporate children youth that are looking to get credit for their classwork. And then we have some examples like Tristan, who has been with us as a student. He got into our program through the 9th grade government project as well and has stayed with us as a CIT, and when he turns 16 this spring, we'll be employing him in our program as well. Some of the stuff that we do is highlighted. Some of the benefits of the program are highlighted in your, go ahead, Val, thank you very much. So there we go. So there are 30 kids right now that are serving in our program, which 30 on the one hand may not seem like a lot of children in percentage-wise, but there are 30 students today that were volunteering after school in our programs around town, which we think is a great opportunity to expand. And we would like to get into some of these Valley View kids back here too. That's our next target. Some of the benefits that we see coming out of our program include the leadership opportunities for kids, boosting their self-esteem, the job experience, job opportunities. Kids do interviews, they do training, they do reviews, they plan programming, they lead kids in programs, younger students in programs. So we see lots of benefits. And where we're going, Paul?
The program's been, that's okay, I kind of love this. Where we'd like to see the program going, like Jane said, right now, currently, the 30 students that are CITing are all from Southview. And we'd love to kind of tap into the Valley View group and see if we can give them the opportunity to be volunteers as well. One of the most difficult things so far has been telling kids, oh, sorry, we have 50 applications, we got 30 kids, and then, it would be awesome if we could, find room for everybody, but that's not the case. I think another thing that we want to do is get some kids volunteering in the summer. I know Tristan has been kind of an awesome role model for CITing, and there's so many kids that look up to him that are current CITs that are like, wow, Tristan's amazing. it's just kind of the trickle-down effect for the role modeling.
The CIT program, it's a really awesome thing. I find it fun. And I think the kids like someone that's a little closer to their age that can relate to the same things that they've gone through in previous years. It's really fun to compare experiences like, oh, what happened in the 5th grade? I appreciate it because I get to connect with wonderful staff members and wonderful kids. And I think the staff appreciate it because they get a helping hand in everyday operations for homework, or they have a club to run. And I'd like to think the kids really do appreciate it, because I do, and I know a lot of other CITs put a lot of hard work into what they do, and they're trying to juggle their social life and homework. It's just a really great thing to do, and whenever you're a CIT, you'll always have a good time.
Thank you, all of you, for talking about that wonderful program for our students. Marsha Friedman's here to talk about what we do with our adult and community members.
Okay, you all know me and I'm really concise, so I'm going to try super hard to do this. Curriculum Resources and Programs is a wonderful opportunity. It's all about partnerships. It's all about enhancing the curriculum. I work with teaching and learning, grade level, all the curriculum questions, bringing resource speakers in, setting up field trips, everything based on enhancing the students' learning and kind of making like a little bit of a wow statement for the kids. They get the experts coming in, anything from disability awareness, exotic animal dentistry. I have partnerships with 3M, Medtronic, University of Minnesota, many departments, but a brand new one with the National Society of Black Engineers coming in and working with our young students. All the way to Wold Architects, who does a walking, talking field trip in Southview Middle School for the art design students. It really makes their learning come alive. Along with that, I have partnerships with 16 of the City of Edina departments, and they have made 144 presentations to our students this year. They are experts in their fields, they're local, they care about the community, and they're willing to give to our students and enhance the learning. Now on to the Community Volunteer Program. Currently, there are volunteers supporting 51 classrooms. Total of 2,085 hours have been donated this year, mostly in K-5 classrooms, Success Center, and the Alternative Learning Program at the high school. These volunteers work one-on-one with students on a weekly basis. They develop relationships with the students, with the staff, and there's 3 members up here that could probably make their own statements. Kathy, Adit, and Lonnie have been avid volunteers in our schools as part of that, and you will now get to hear what Mr. Fred Lafferty has to say.
So which one are you choosing?
For this one?
Yeah.
I chose the Bubble Bubble.
I think it's wonderful. I get as much satisfaction out of it as the boys. I think we've learned a lot together. I think we've, we go through phrases and words and explanations of things in the book, and it's very rewarding. It's great volunteering.
I like it because we learn a lot more and we get a lot more done, and it's just a lot more convenient for us.
I'll definitely continue to have community volunteers in the classroom. It's been an absolute treasure to have Mr. Lafferty come in, and it just helps lower the numbers in our ever-increasing class sizes.
Good we have a student. Technology. Very useful. Yeah, that you need the tech in there.
That's why he's here tonight. Our community has been wonderful about stepping forward, about hearing about the opportunities, coming forward, wanting to be in the classrooms, wanting to work with the students. I kind of joke that the volunteers working through the community volunteer program are anywhere between 14 and 84. Tristan actually started out from the 9th grade service project at Southview as a volunteer with the, Val, click it, homework help program. With the homework help program. And as Jane mentioned, Southview government students are required to have service learning hours, and he worked weekly with students, and it was very special to him because that was his elementary school, and he felt like he was giving back. He also got to reconnect with his old teachers, and he was a wonderful role model. Currently, the homework help, thank you, Jane. Currently, the homework help program is at Cornelia Elementary School. There have been 600 hours given this year, Tuesdays and Wednesdays after school, 35 individual partnerships between a student and a volunteer. Many of the volunteers are returning year after year, and the students are so outrageously grateful for the extra time and the extra help. As a matter of fact, one really cute story is there had been a little guy been part of the program when he was in third, fourth, and fifth grade. He's now at Southview, and this summer I got contacted by his 2 older siblings who are Edina High School students. And they said they wanted to do for other children what somebody did for their brother. And they have been avid volunteers throughout this entire year, making such a contribution. So I just thought that was kind of cool. In your staff, in your board packet, you see this. This is really just a snippet of highlights from the schools. Overall, there's been over 3,500 volunteer hours this year for all the different types of volunteering that I coordinate. And also in your board packet is the brand new Learning Edition. And on page 5 is a piece that I would like you to read about curriculum resources and programs. Thanks.
This is awesome.
Yeah, I was going to say, no question, just a huge thank you, because with the challenges that we face budgetarily, the people that you bring into our school district are so absolutely valuable.
My question, which I know you have a lot of promotion out in the community, but for anyone watching this broadcast who would like to get involved, whether they're 14 or 84, anywhere in between, how do they start? Who do they contact?
On the district website, under Community Ed, there's a volunteering tab, and it leads them directly to me. They contact me, volunteers are interviewed, placed appropriately, highlighting their time, and their talents and their energies, their interests. There's volunteers that are very interested in working with high school students, and then there's volunteers that are very interested in working with kindergarten art students and being respectful of the volunteers' talent and the teacher's time. It's a three-way seesaw that I play.
It's been a pleasure to serve with Tristan on the Community Education Services Board, and you are a great inspiration for kids coming up the line doing what you're doing. So thank you for serving.
Thank you all. Next up, we have our 2013-14 leadership update.
Yeah, I was going to say, is it 8?
This is just an overview, again, of the planning that's evolving. This is a very busy time of the year, obviously, at the district level for our plans for 13-14. A lot of our work is around aligning our resources of time, talent, space, and funds to learning. And we've been doing a lot of work over the past 3 years around our strategic work, and this is where we now start really, this year I see us really starting to move forward with making some strong alignment. Earlier this year, the board approved a calendar. We're looking again at how we use our talent as far as training with our professional learning communities. We've got a study going on in facilities, and obviously the budgeting process. But our work is very much focused on that next Edina Public Schools, and we're looking at this evolution of the process. It's not something that's going to take place overnight, but again, over the next 3 years, that we'll continue to evolve as a school district, starting most strongly with our secondary study and then moving into an early childhood and elementary study to help shape that plan to make sure our students are truly ready for the world that they're going to be living in, working in, and playing in. When it looks at funds, we've been working hard on saying this is a 2-year picture of our funding sources, and I'll ask Margot Bach to step in as we're doing this discussion. But just looking at all of our areas of where we draw on our funds, this is really the challenge piece of our work is you can see we have, looking at this graph, you can see a variety of spots where we have used federal stimulus dollars. We've had an approved tech levy. We've made some budget adjustments, but again, just trying to manage our revenues as well as our expenditures to make sure we stay fiscally strong. The growth really is as much a result of our growing enrollment for new funding as anything. But again, this is just showing some of the challenges and how we've continued to respond to those challenges. We've had a history, again, from a school district of trying to minimize the impact that when we do have to look at budget adjustments, that we minimize the impact it has on direct instruction. You can see this from a cost standpoint. While direct instruction is our largest area of support, that's where our classroom teachers and all the things related to instruction would fall. Some of the other areas have we've had to take more of an adjustment from a percent standpoint. You can see again that we've really tried to stay away from the impact that it'll have on a student and their learning, recognizing the value of that what happens in the classroom is the biggest impact. While we're at the same time looking at budget adjustments, we're also advancing our strategic plan. Later tonight, the administration is going to recommend that the board move forward with some one-time enhancements. These are enhancements that would only be in place for 1 year. They would help us in advancing our strategic plan, a kind of a kickstart to our strategic plan. The second would be just some ongoing enhancements that we think this is where we need to start spending some money simply to advance some of the work that we see as a priority going forward. When we look at these proposals under the enhancement, some of the one-time funding would be a secondary study support. We are going to be rolling out some recommendations in May. We do feel that in order to be successful that we're going to need to provide some additional support at the leadership level. This could be for teacher support, could be for principal support, but just some additional resources to help with some of the studies that are going to be rolling forward, and have targeted some one-time funds around that. We've targeted some one-time funds as we look at reorganizing our building and grounds department to meet some of the needs, especially as it relates to some of our major summer projects where we'll be having $10 million of construction, and how we can create some efficiencies and effectiveness there. Possibility, we're looking at some coordinator position, a coordinator position where we'd be seeking some half-time funding around that for 1 more year, and then we'll make some transition. Second is we have, or the final one is we have a 5th grade class at Creek Valley that has a large student enrollment, so for 1 year we'll need to have a 5th section of students at Creek Valley. After that class graduates, they'll be back to 4-section schools at all grade levels. Some of the ongoing enhancements, one of the areas that we're really starting to grow is the data analysis work that we're doing, really taking a look at how we use data to measure the work that we're doing. Adit mentioned some of the work that's happening at Valley View as it relates to technology. As we continue to grow this technology, we have to make sure it's making a difference. And we've done a lot of work on doing some research study as relates to the secondary work. Next year we'll have the elementary. We've got the All for All initiative and closing the gap. We just need someone who can go very deep into understanding the data and helping us use the data in a more effective way on a day-to-day basis in the classroom at the school sites. Last year we had some one-time funding for some elementary intervention specialists. These are teachers that come above and beyond the classroom instructor, and it's again how we're using our funding differently. They're certified teachers who specialize in either math or reading, and we're hopeful that with that we could also get some grant funding. We expect to need another special education position. Again, this is a growing area of need for us with our enrollment and some of the needs that we might want to make sure those students are addressed. And finally, some additional support for elementary summer school. So this would be some enhancements both at a one-time level totaling over $260,000 and then an ongoing basis totaling over $375,000. So those would be enhancements to our current budget model. Some other areas that we're monitoring that we have not addressed is some additional elementary intervention support. We had some one-time funding around that. Some work around going green or some of our environmental and recycling efforts. A middle school intervention specialist. The Writer's Block was a program that was supported by the Ed Fund, and that funding has subsided. Kindergarten's scholarship program, some additional funding for staff development given the amount of change that is going on. And then finally a part-time teacher and our English language learner, teacher. So these are all program enhancements that at this point we're not recommending for action, but we're continuing to monitor as they would be viewed as a priority if the funding was available. From the budget adjustment process then, as we moved into it, we were directed through the planning process at the board level and at the board committee level to make sure that we align with our strategic directions, that we minimize impact that would have on programs and schedules or what happens in the classrooms, that if there are some reductions that we're looking at in 14-15, that we would act on them this year to maximize the savings, recognizing there may be some one-time funding to help with the transition, and then finally trying to make sure that the fund, the adjustments are equitable and sustainable over the long term. We have gone through the process and bringing tonight to the board a proposal. As we look at this proposal, here's the impact of if we were looking at just making $500,000 worth of adjustments, we would have a gap between revenues and expenditures of $1.3 million. We have some room to give because our fund balance is above the range that is by board policy, but then in 14-15 we're looking at a $2.1 million gap, and we cannot continue to sustain that type of gap. So as we've talked about it at the board workshop level, that we're continuing to monitor what happens at the legislative level. There's a lot of flexibility yet, but we're expecting that when we come with a proposal to the board in May and June, that we'll be looking someplace in this $823,000 to $1 million, someplace in that range is probably what we'll be looking at for budget adjustments. And we think by doing that, we can manage that in 14-15 as well. So if we roll that out, our recommendation is the ongoing would be about $375,000. The adjustments that I'll be sharing with you in a moment, that again we're not acting on tonight, but we'll be presenting to the board, it'd be just over $1 million. We have some one-time fundings and then some other areas that we're also monitoring. Again, this is funding based on projections on the revenue side, also based on a variety of projections on the expenditure side. The areas of adjustment that we're looking at, again, several of them are opportunities for us, some reallocations of funds and that we're realigning, some funding possibilities, an aggressive grant that we're hoping to get with the Minnesota Department of Education. We had 9 retired teachers, and so that's a savings through the hiring process. We've had some literacy funding that's been available at the elementary level that we already had staff in place, and so we're not going to add additional staffing at this point. This teacher on special assignment would be a change, and this would be, as we roll out that data analysis position, we would be replacing a teacher on special assignments, so that would be a revenue neutral change. We'd be reducing some contingency out of the administrative funds. This is again where we've used it historically to address some hot spots as it were in staffing, some adjustment in a clerical position, increasing the secondary staffing by 0.35, and the board will be acting on that later today. Again, this is a challenge area for us, but with the $250,000 of elementary, where we're not doing anything with the literacy funding, this is the way we're able to respond, reducing a coordinator position, looking at increasing our open enrollment by a few students where we have available space. Again, we do not want to overcrowd our classrooms or our schools, but to feel we have some gaps where we could fill those, and then some restructuring of building and grounds. These are all adjustments that were developed by the administration, reviewed by the school board. We did receive input through CIT processes to get this information. A lot of these ideas were generated by a community process that 2 years ago we had these ideas already kind of kept that we did not access when the last time we did a significant budget reduction. So these are, for the most part, generated through that process as well. There's other areas that we're continuing to monitor, possibly some additional clerical reductions, putting a cap on teacher hiring so that we'd not hire over a certain dollar amount, looking at some increases in class size at the elementary or secondary level, reducing a dean, special education, making a reduction there as well. These are not areas that we're recommending at this point, but we're continuing to monitor, and we'll continue to study further. We'll be bringing those back to the board for formal action. I'll pause, and Margo, is there anything that I didn't touch on or that I erred on in sharing, or comments you might want to have just about the general budget development?
I think you covered it very well. Covered all the topics. It's just an annual process to manage revenue versus expenditures, and also provide enhancements and align our funds to the strategic plan and to our learning.
And this is the adjustment process would be about 1% of our total budget. But I think I'll pause, and the board has questions specifically about the enhancements or the budget adjustment process. This might be a good time to respond to those questions.
I had a couple questions on where you mentioned the building and grounds transition and the coordinator transition. Are those? What are those?
So we're again looking at restructuring and doing more alignment. We're optimistic on a coordinator's position that we can get some partnership dollars, so we can retain the position. But for one more year, yeah, we're saving it. But for one more year, we'll probably need some one-time fund to support that. But long term, we hope to have some partnership dollars. We're exploring a variety of partnerships with private, public entities to help support that. The building and grounds restructuring again is taking a look at some staffing efficiencies and restructuring our staffing model, and we think out of that there'll likely be some savings long term on that. But we need a bridge for 1 year to make that happen.
Okay. I had one more question. Sorry.
Go ahead.
And then just my other one, the reduced secondary staffing. How does that? I mean, is it because the 0.35 students? Is it?
So Gwen, what is
kind
that?
of just spreading it out a little bit and not really majorly impactful in the classroom?
Yes, the allocation is spread out, and what the principals are doing, they're working with their teams to determine which classes might be increased a little bit by 1 or 2 students, and which classrooms should remain smaller class sizes, such as some of the intervention classes.
Okay, great, thank you. That was all I had.
Quick question. So if you were to pick up the paper and read about how the governor has proposed all this extra money for education, during the first year, what's he actually talking about in terms of dollars getting to the district?
The governor's proposal has 1% in 13-14 overall. The governor's proposal had more types of funding changes and ins and outs and in 14-15. But the governor's proposal for 13-14 was pretty straightforward with 1%. The Senate and the House have differing proposals right now in terms of funding. the Senate in 13-14, I believe, I've skimmed it quickly because it just came out within the last few days. I believe is in 13-14 is 1%. The House is 2% at this point. And then, of course, there's other language and other types of items in all three types of proposals.
And 1% in real dollars for Edina Public Schools is?
1% for us in Edina is about $475,000 in revenue.
Right, so we're taking a look at these additions and subtractions because if the governor's proposal, we get an extra $500,000, then of course inflation's going to cost us a lot more than that.
It continues to be a challenge. That's why we really do need to step back. We don't see the cost of those historical increases we used to see in funding formulas of 3.5%, 4%, 2.5% annually. We don't see that going forward, so we really do need to step back and say, how are we going to continue to fund schools? But a 1% isn't going to help us bridge that long term.
And that's what the governor actually talks about, being a large increase for education at this point.
Mm-hmm.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Additional questions or comments?
I'm going to move on to just again make the board aware of our strategic work around aligning our time and learning. Earlier this calendar year, the board did approve the school calendar, which will have us starting at the same time after Labor Day in 13-14, but in 14-15 we'll be starting a week before Labor Day. We also approved some late starts, and we've been working on making a stronger effort to coordinate our summer planning and also making sure that the late starts are really aligned well to help our students' learning. And then we're also looking at some creative options as it relates to parent-teacher conferences. And I'd ask Gwen and Randy, who are coordinating some of our calendar work and our time efforts, to talk a little bit about how things are developing.
So what we've done is the fact that each school has worked with a team of teachers and administrators to develop a parent-teacher conference schedule that is then as in the form of a proposal, and that has been presented, and we will work with 2 administrators and 2 teachers from Education Minnesota on looking at the proposals to determine if those proposals fall within the guidelines of what we want. So that's one of the things that we're doing for the calendar. The other thing is that we're being more definitive about what schools and teachers will be doing on the professional development days, as well as the late starts and early releases. And Randy could speak to that.
As Gwen mentioned, the late starts and early releases are collaboration time for staff, and we're excited about having that collaboration time this year. So one of the things that we've just completed is a memo regarding use of that time and how that time is going to look throughout the year. And then we'll work with communications to include some information in principal newsletters about how staff will be using those late start, early release times for 13-14.
And we'll keep you posted. Again, we're going to continue to do more and more work around calendar and time in the 13-14 year as we gear up for that 14-15 year. Taking a look at how we're using our time differently, or our talent differently, I should say. Working hard on this whole thought of how we have our teachers working differently in professional learning communities. And Randy has shared in the past about the work that we're doing. It's been probably about a 3 or 4 year journey around our work, and really starting to see some traction starting to build. The time element is going to be significant for us, so we'll continue to advance that. We're taking more opportunities to grow our leadership training as well, offering more and more leadership opportunities around training for staff, and staff are very good at engaging in that, and so we know that those are, again, benefits. Later tonight, the board will be approving the termination of several of our positions in our district media and technology services, and earlier tonight Marilyn spoke about the concerns. I want to go on record of we've had just much success as a school district as it relates to technology, and it is those team members that are with us today that have helped bring that forward. They have also helped paint that vision for us going forward. We've had a strategic plan in place, as well as a technology a plan in place, and we really think that we are positioned well to take off to that next level. Earlier this year, administratively, we had discussions even at the board committee level of saying how do we make sure we have staffing positioned and staff assignments correctly positioned to help us make sure we're successful as we move forward with the planning effort, and we recognize that we need to do some realignment of those positions. At this time, we have two job descriptions for those positions, and those job descriptions did work. They worked for what got us to here, but as we went forward, the planning process recognizes we needed to redefine those job descriptions. In redefining those job descriptions, there's also going to change the compensation rates of some of those positions. After a lot of consultant support, checking what other districts had done, conversation with school board committee members, at the HR level, we determined the direction we wanted to take was that we would terminate all those. We want every one of those members who are part of our team today is to apply for positions that we have posted and that we'll be interviewing for. So our hope is that they'll jump right back into that, and we'll have positions that better align to where our strategic plan is, and that we'll be moving forward in that effort. We recognize it's challenging times for them, and we have continued to recognize that. But our plan is at this point to move forward with that as a recommendation for board action tonight, and then again hope that those positions will help us as we move forward with our strategic plan as well as our technology plan. We're also taking a look at our building and grounds plan. I mentioned our building and grounds approach and looking at job descriptions there as well, starting to take a look at, again, how we have to refine our job descriptions to realign those assignments to meet our needs as the district moves forward with our facility needs as well. So those are things that are happening in the area of talent with learning. From a strategic standpoint, we've gone through a lot of these before. Later tonight, the board will be accepting the All for All improvement plan, and we'll start looking at priorities of how we really work at closing the gap. We're also going to be getting next year into the elementary study, as I mentioned, but the secondary program study is something that's moving quite quickly. I'm going to ask Randy Smosel at this point to give us a quick overview of where we are today as it relates to our secondary strategic plan and how it's going to be coming forward to the board and the community over the upcoming weeks.
So we have another meeting tomorrow to continue work around our secondary study. We've identified 5 areas that are core strategies that we will try to move forward to meet this secondary academic program vision. Those areas are around global preparedness and competence. So the end result is that our students are globally prepared, globally competent to work, survive, and thrive, both in college and or career upon exiting our Edina Public Schools. So it's coming to consensus and defining what does global preparedness and competence look like 2015 and beyond. Personal development and independent life skills, what are those critical skills, timeless skills and literacies they're going to take with them. Personalized learning and advising are support structures that are going to help each of our students meet their goals, their aspirations, explore their sparks and interests and passions. Appropriate, flexible time and space, identifying how we use space differently, how we create those anytime, anywhere learning environments. We heard Ms. Dudley speak to how they're doing that at Valley View, and we have a number of teachers piloting different types of ways of using that space to engage kids and to increase learning. And so we're exploring how we're going to continue to do that in the future. And then also looking at how we work differently together and how we increase our amount of collaboration as a culture. So identifying those major areas is part of the key to identifying the vision for where we're headed. Some of our next steps include drafting out key milestones as part of an action plan, reviewing some of the new data that we've now received from our Stanford MOOC, our massive open source online course. So we have a presentation which I'll share with the board members that we've received from that participation in that open source course. And so there's some exciting ideas in there. Looking at national comparisons of high-performing single district or single high school districts around the country, and looking at the future work that they're doing in educational programming as well as personalized learning. We will continue to seek input from staff and students and community and continue to revise this plan. We will be bringing forward to the school board in May a plan that articulates a vision for secondary academic programming. It will include core strategies for how we're going to put that vision in place. It will articulate what are some of the significant shifts that will need to happen to reach those visions, and then some key milestones, which are some of the key large steps to get to those visions. Specific details of how each of those milestones will be achieved will need to be laid out through an implementation team, which will be kind of the next phase. We will begin implementation with this staff level design team, kind of this part 2, and our goal is full implementation by 2015 and 16.
Questions at this point around any of the talent thoughts or ideas?
Go ahead. Do you have any idea at this point as to who will be on that staff design team?
So I think that's a great question. It's part of our discussion tomorrow, but definitely we will have school building administrators, and we will have 6-12 level instructional staff teachers, and then we will also have some district office staff that are on there. We know that teachers are producers, and they need to be engaged in this process, and they have been going into part 2. They've been engaged in this process from a consultation role this year, as we have gathered input through brainstorming, through face-to-face meetings, and through surveys. And so they have contributed to the forming of the vision, which articulates the what and why of where we're headed. We look forward to this next phase where they have opportunity to help us define the how we're going to get to that vision.
At a secondary level, will there be any students involved?
I think that's a great question. I think there's potential or opportunity for that. That'll be part of our discussion tomorrow with our facilitator, is what does that next layer of implementation design team need to look like, and who needs to be in the membership for that process?
I know, Randy, that in the first phase, we had the opportunity for a lot of community input, as you referenced through the survey and the community dialogue. In the next phase, where can the community look for updates? Will this be posted regularly on the website? Where can they go?
Community can certainly continue to go to the website. So we have a website designed specifically for the secondary academic program study. We will also be sharing with the community the end result of this work throughout the year, and trying to articulate to the community through that consult what the vision, the milestones, the core strategies are, and solicit feedback through that process. And then we will continue to solicit feedback as we go through this implementation process and create an implementation design that gets at specific details of the how.
Thanks. I think it's great that there is still an opportunity for feedback as this continues to take some shape. Thanks.
Sure.
So will the May 14th meeting have implementation steps listed, or will it still be vision level?
It will be vision level with large level milestones. So specific detail about how those milestones will be accomplished will be the work of that implementation team.
So I guess I'll have to wait to see what it looks like.
Sure. Large level milestones would be big level action steps that will need to be defined specifically.
But we'll be approving this at the May 28th meeting?
You will be seeing the vision, the core strategies, and those large level milestones, and then we would be asking for that. It would be initial presentation in May, and then we'd be asking for action to continue that direction at the end of May.
So we'll work through it and make sure the board's comfortable and the community's comfortable with the changes. Again, it's going to be very similar to the way the strategic plan was rolled out. If you think back to the strategic plan of that 1 or 3-page document that had the goals and the study areas, so that they're going to continue to be quite broad and not real specific in recommendation, because the how, as Randy talked about, is not something that we've been able to capture. The how is we've been able to frame and take the information and narrow it to these core strategies, and then we'll have some specific next steps around those core strategies. But the black and white answers are really going to be something that we're going to study into next year as a school district.
And that's fine, sort of being able to study the how into next year. We might want to know more about the how before it gets into a full approval stage. That's
fine. Yep. That's good advice.
And I guess I'd like to see us, since we had such good community involvement with the way we did the posters that evening and all the input, I'd hate to see us leave it at that with the community. I'd like to see us do something that engages them more than just online. I think a lot of, when you're asked to actually come in and be a part of a meeting or take another online survey, I think we really need to work to engage them more, and I'd like to see students be engaged in this. They have great feedback on what works and doesn't work in the classroom too.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Sarah. And one of our agenda items for our discussion tomorrow are those next needed communication opportunities with different groups.
Okay, thanks.
The final major area of commitment is, again, the improvement, the communication plan that the board accepted and supported earlier this calendar year, and then we're continuing to move with the facility plan. And again, a little bit of the facility plan, we've got a heavy emphasis on the maintenance, but as far as improving the additions and where we need to go next as far as how we use facilities, that's going to be very much driven around these studies. So we've got to get a little further into our studies. So the school security enhancements, we are expecting a report next week from Wold Architect around some of the opportunities that we're looking at as far as increasing and improving some of our security at our front entrances, and just looking at costs of how we might be able to manage that. So that'll probably also come back to the board yet this year. But that's kind of the overview from our funds, our time, and our talent, and our strategic priorities with learning.
Any additional questions, comments? Thank you, Rick. Next, we have our consent agenda. And a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. Rick, could you please walk us through?
We have our personnel recommendations. Within those personnel recommendations, did mention to the board that the terminations around our district media and technology services is part of the process as we look at the realignment of those job descriptions. We have some personnel recommendations with community education. We have some termination, non-renew of some of our teachers. Again, those are spelled out, approving some expenditures. The class size factor, that is that increase of 0.35 at the secondary level that we're recommending for action. And the reason we need to take action on that is because we're also trying to build our secondary schedules, our master schedules. So we did need to move on that. By policy, we're asked to update that. The elementary, we're not seeing any change, so we're not bringing the full resolution to the board, but because by policy there's no change, and we can stay constant with that. We have a variety of lease agreements. This again involves our community center. Student teaching agreement with Luther College. We'll see a variety of our student teaching agreements coming forward as we continue to see a good partnership with many of our undergrad institutions. Commendations, and again, the gifts that continue to support our schools. And that would conclude our consent agenda.
Thank you, Rick. Any items that anybody would like to remove from the consent agenda? Any comments? All those in favor in approving the consent agenda as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, we have our 2013-14 budget enhancements. Get a motion to bring that to the table.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion or background?
Information as Dr. Dressen presented on the initial enhancements. We are continuing to monitor other requests and also monitoring the legislative session.
Thank you, Margot and Rick, for your earlier presentation. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the 2013-14 budget adjustment plan, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, we have our 2013-14 school board meeting dates. Need a motion?
So move.
Wait.
Pardon?
I'm sorry, I jumped to the wrong place.
All for all plan.
Yeah, I got two budget adjustments on my sheet, and I jumped to the second one and went after that. I'm sorry, cancel that. Item B under action is our all for all plan. Any motion to bring it to the table?
So moved.
Is a
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to forward the all for all plan. Any discussion?
It's the plan that was presented at the March meeting. And I know, Chad, if you want to make any comments, kind of help to champion this initiative.
Thank you. So, Board, this is a follow-up or a bookend, a formal report to the presentation that you saw in March. You see that we've got five broad recommendation areas that we recognize that this has to be a plan that's multifaceted in its approach. And so we're looking at initiatives in the area of leadership, in the area of beliefs, in the area of preparation, in the area of teaching and learning, and in the area of time. Our educational delivery group, which includes all principals and many folks in the teaching and learning area, are developing specific action steps in each of these. We are, as part of that conversation, we are focusing on measurement. How will we evaluate whether this plan is moving the work forward that we want it to be? And this is about high achievement and measured growth for all. That is the goal and the work of the plan.
Thank you, Chad. Any additional discussion or questions?
Looking at the plan, I keep coming back to my main point that I don't necessarily see the words in there about student ownership and student empowerment. And that's just one of my personal hang-ups, so.
All right. So in the, I think it's in the teaching and learning area, we're focused on student engagement and ownership of learning.
Okay.
So that's one of the recommendations within that, Lonnie. And so it might not be the exact same words you used, but I feel like it's similar concepts. And maybe we could have a little conversation to hear what you're thinking and how that might fit or might be, it might be similar or a little bit different, and we can match that.
Thank you.
One of the recommendations under teaching and learning is about that. It's about growing student engagement, enhancing their ownership of the learning. We know that, I'll go back to secondary study, that's one of the skill sets we want to help kids build as they leave the system, is how to know how to learn, how to unlearn, and how to relearn, and be accountable for their learning as an adult. So that is one of the recommendations, is teaching kids various engagement strategies, teaching them how to be engaged in their learning.
Okay, I have trouble because engagement winds up being the teacher's responsibility again, rather than the students. And that's just my thing.
And additional discussion?
I guess I just wanted to, with the all for all, I mean, I come back to all for all when we talk about it as in general for the district, that all for all is for all students. But this plan is focusing in on our gap that we need to close, correct?
That's right. It would be not only that area. There, I think I'm back on again. Not only that area, Sarah, but that is initially where the conversation started with the strategic planning work from a year ago. We recognized these achievement gaps we were seeing trending over time in both math and reading. And as we started to look deeper at our data, participation in extracurricular activities, participation in AP, that kind of stuff. And that's just a small snippet of some of the areas that we looked at. We recognize some gaps in that as well. And so this is not solely about raising our lowest performers, but it's also about challenging all. And it's about the idea that gaps shouldn't be predictable, that we're not, based on the color of one's skin or one's socioeconomic status, their performance, their academic performance or participation in school should not be governed or sort of prejudged by that.
Thanks.
Thanks, Chad and Randy. Additional questions or comment? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the All for All plan, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, we have our amended establishing new combined precinct boundaries and polling places. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Margot, you want to step in?
Yes, this is just part of, or the impact of the redistricting for election boundaries. And the city has adjusted some precincts, which has rendered our combined polling places, some of them, invalid. So the recommended changes then have our combined polling places comply or conform to the new precincts for elections. The major changes are highlighted in the resolution. Precinct 12 used to be Cornelia School, and now it's Arneson Acres Park. Precincts 13, 16, and 17 have been combined to vote at Cornelia, and Precinct 14 used to vote at St. Peter's Lutheran Church and will now vote at Edina Community Lutheran Church. And I would recommend approval.
Thank you, Margot. And again, this is, the motion we're voting on is the revised version you were handed when you arrived at the meeting. Any additional discussion? All those in favor of approving the new combined precinct boundaries and polling places, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, we have our Edina High School roof replacement. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the funds for the Edina High School roof replacement. Margot, a little background, please.
Yes, first of all, I would like to clarify the title, that it's a partial roof area and not the full roof.
Yeah, it sounded,
The high school is a large building, and if we were able to replace the entire high school roof for $119,000 some dollars, that would be an awesome deal. In fact,
I'd worry what that roof was made out of.
well, and I too. So it is actually between the base bid and the alternate bid is an area above the old theater and also an adjacent corridor above that, roughly about 8,000 square feet. We did receive competitive bids, and I'm happy to report that the bids came in under budget once again. We hope this luck keeps moving along here this spring, that we continue to have good bidder response. And and again, this is similar to the other projects I brought forward this spring. This is funded through the Alternative Facilities Plan that the board approved in May 2010.
And are we familiar with this contractor?
Yes, we have had them work in the district before.
What's the current life expectancy of this new roof?
I would have to follow up and
Okay.
provide that to you. Yep.
And Margot, this is complete replacement or new roof over existing?
Oh, he has it.
I would have, it's replacement.
So taking off the existing and putting on new, thanks.
Additional questions or comments?
That is an area of the roof where we have had leakage in the past. I'm thinking that that was probably, though, about 15 years ago. It was during Bob Peterson's retirement concert when the storm arrived on stage. And I know that at that point they had to do some major repair to the roof. I think that was either 97 or 98. So it might be just good to know that that is an area that has caused us problems in the past.
Whenever we're going in to replace, we monitor and take a look at that. As you have older roofs and patching and repair, there can be leakage in some areas. So we want to take a look at the drainage, all those kinds of things, what's currently going on. And between the architects and the buildings and grounds team, we do take a look at that.
Okay.
And I will confirm and follow up on the life expectancy and also just confirm the replacement versus over the top.
Thanks.
Additional questions or comments? Thank you, Margot. All those in favor of approving the partial Edina High School roof replacement, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And if we could just insert that friendly amendment, the word partial in there, unless anybody objects, that'd be nice. Next item, item E this evening, our last item on the action agenda is a schedule review of the 400 series policies. We have a revised policy 403 and also a revised policy 404. I'm at the wrong place. Are those listed as one item?
Yeah.
They're both under E, so.
Okay.
yeah.
Motion to approve both of those together?
I moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. We've seen these before. Any updates from anybody or policy comments? Kathy, how did this go for you?
Just have one suggestion that I already had shared.
She shared, but, share here, because they're good suggestions.
The one suggestion is the form attached to this for doing background checks is styled only for employees, and the policy applies to non-employees, volunteers as well. And we have a separate form apparently for volunteer background checks. It's not attached to this policy. Apparently there's some talk about attaching it to one of our volunteer policies in the 900 series. My only suggestion would be that somehow in this policy we reference that people look for it there, because if you're searching for employment background checks, this is the only place it's going to come up if you were searching. And you wouldn't look in that volunteer policy necessarily to find that form. So I would just cross-reference it somewhere.
So I think that's a helpful comment, and Nikki Tischer had an opportunity to respond. And this is something we can look at the next policy committee meeting. Since it's part of the appendix and not the basic policy, we can go forward with approving tonight and still consider your suggestion, which is a good one, and we'll address that at the next policy committee meeting.
Sounds like a plan.
Additional discussion? Thank you, policy, for all the work, and Kathy for keeping an eye on them.
She's in withdrawal.
All those in favor of approving revised policy 403 and revised policy 404, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And now we're on to where I was earlier, which is the budget adjustment plan and our meeting dates under discussion. We did get a revised 13 and 14 budget adjustment recommendation sheet. Any discussion?
These are the same ones that Rick shared with us earlier this evening?
That's correct.
Yes.
That's correct.
Part of the presentation?
Right.
Any thoughts?
We're going to continue to study other possible adjustments, and we'll bring it back for board to discuss in our May meetings. Again, just watching again, trying to find this balance to be fiscally responsible and yet still meet our students' needs, and watching what happens at the legislative level and a few other variables that we continue to manage.
So do we have a timing issue in terms of waiting for the legislature to actually make a final decision, and when we have to make a decision?
No, we have to have a budget in place by June 30th, and so we'll just continue to go forward, and if we have to make a budget adjustment based on what happens at the legislative level after June 30th, we would. But I think we're in pretty good shape. Margot, maybe you can address that better.
The timing challenge comes that in preparing, it's a lot of detailed information to prepare for you as a board to approve in June. So realistically, we'll have to make some assumptions prior to the legislative session being done and report those and bring those forward to you. But, if there's something, we continue to monitor it on a daily basis. So we're going to be incorporating everything that we know into that. And if it was something major that changed, we bring it back forward through the board again.
Additional questions or comments? So the answer is, Lenny, we have to comply with the law, but the legislature does not.
That's what
I
makes
hope
it
they call
fun.
it special session.
We aren't allowed a special session. Next up, we have our 13-14 meeting dates.
Calendar looks quite similar. Again, we try to space and pace our school calendar, our meeting calendar, I should say, with work sessions and our regular meetings. So there's a little bit of pacing and spacing to make sure we're adequate work can get done between each meeting. It's very similar to what we've had in the previous years. We have the meeting starting at 7 o'clock as planned, and but we'll ask for board action at the May meeting.
Did we bump the meeting after spring break next year?
There's at least a week after.
Okay.
Long breaks.
Yes, there's at least a week after spring break.
Yeah, we're not till April 14th.
Someone had raised the question of starting the meetings before 7, like at 6. Was that looked at all?
It was, I mean, we left at 7, but we'd certainly be open to, if the board would like to move to a 6 o'clock start time.
Do we have any number, or start times from other districts that we can compare with? Is 7 quite traditional?
7 is typical for the regular meetings.
I suppose the issue was
for working parents and community.
The issue with starting at 6 is that if we had a workshop all of a sudden, that would be at 4.
That, and then sometimes if we're having student recognitions or some of that, we might be cutting into.
It's hard for people to make.
Additional questions or comments? We've got the 400 series policies as well under discussion. Who wants to run?
Well, I can give a general overview of some of the discussion that's already occurred on the 400 series. This will come back before policy again before it returns to the board. Kathy, thanks for your written notes in advance regarding those, because it gives us some time to take a look at these. So far, the language through each of these policies have been language adjustment and cleanup, taking a look at, for example, in the purpose of 405, revising some of the words just to make something a little bit more clear. Let's see what else is different. Nothing else terribly significant other than amending the language. But are there any questions? So we'll take another look at this again before it comes back for approval.
Next, anything else? All set for policy?
Policy is ready to meet again.
Information?
How did I see our robotics team is going to the nationals. Did they?
They won the state.
They did win.
Yeah, so did our chess team.
I did not see that in any type of publication.
I think it was in the Sun Current.
Yep.
Was it?
Sun
I
Current.
must have missed it over.
I think so. Nice
Yep.
coverage on robotics. Actually,
Yeah.
Robotic
they
and-
posted-
Okay, it must have been during spring break.
Yeah, it was.
Because
I think
missed
it was
that.
during spring break.
Yeah. Oh, okay, awesome.
Technically, they didn't win the state. There was a regional, and then they qualified with some
Well, they
individual awards that
qualified
they
at the
received.
state
so
level
they-
to attend
yeah,
national.
They didn't win state. I just want to
Okay,
make sure.
they
No, they
just-
got, they seem to get it every year. It's some kind of
The
like
chairman award?
creativity or
They got an
something.
engineering award and an
Yeah.
innovation award.
Ah,
So we
thank you.
actually will have some information coming out in this week's e-news.
Good. That's great.
Thank you.
In the information section, I really like the recognition of staff section. I hope that people are reading those. Those are nice comments about the people who are working hard and getting extra recognition.
Well, and I was just thinking, we recognized people at the beginning of the meeting. I don't know whether we could add that, but I think they deserve some kind of public, and by the time we get to this point in the meeting, everybody's bleary-eyed and
Gone home.
Well, we do recognize
Well, it
them.
is-
in one of the newsletters, correct? But it's the staff one.
No, actually, in the board recaps, we always draw attention to that, and then the staff one, we pull out any staff that are recognized.
Okay, sorry. Yep, thanks. But yeah, it would be nice to give them public exposure for their work.
Any other announcements? Discussion items? Seeing none, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded to adjourn. Anybody object to adjourning at this time? Seeing no objections, we are adjourned. Thank you all.